So our work is about asymptomatic myeloma and its progression to symptomatic myeloma. And so the question is, what factors determine this progression? So is it something which is already there upfront when the patient with asymptomatic myeloma presents, or is it something which appears as a second event in the myeloma cells at the asymptomatic stage and then drive the progression to the symptomatic myeloma? So in our work, based on 2,369 patients, we basically found that the main determinants of progression are the upfront factors, which is the tumor mass and the proliferation rate of the myeloma cells alongside chromosomal aberrations and alterations in gene expression, so everything which is already there upfront. And then we conducted a study with paired samples. So we sequenced these samples by whole exome sequencing, RNA sequencing, and investigated them by array CGH and looked what changes appear between these samples. And bottom line is that over 80% of the patients, there's no change in the genetic alterations from the early stage to the advanced stage, so to the symptomatic myeloma stage, which comes to us to a surprise, because in myeloma we always think that it is this multi-step progression until the disease becomes symptomatic. Then we investigated also changes on the basis of RNA sequencing, where we found that in a principal component analysis the samples between the early stage and the late stage were really quite close, but for the few patients who had really a change in their alteration pattern. And this also holds true for alterations in terms of MYC alterations. So basically our conclusion is to the question, is there a change in the genetic landscape? Is asymptomatic myeloma a genetically different disease to symptomatic myeloma? The answer is no, and you find these changes only in a minority of patients in which they can appear. And this has high impact for how we see asymptomatic myeloma, because this means that with a very high probability we will be able to predict which patients actually progress and which will not progressing.